이 자리에는 언론사 기자님을 비롯한 여러 기관들과 또 저희 샤오미 본사에서도 여러 기관들이 함께하고 계십니다. 저는 샤오미 한국 총판인 지무비 코리아 대표를 맡고 있는 정승희라고 합니다. 지무비 코리아는 2년 전 샤오미와 한국 총판 계약을 체결하였고 한국 시장에 대한 전략적 고민을 함께 해가고 있습니다. 스마트폰이라는 것이 세상에 나온 것이 벌써 10년이 넘었습니다. 스마트폰 하나와 손가락 하나면 생활 속에서 모든 편리함을 누릴 수 있는 시대가 되었습니다. 한 끼 밥은 먹지 않아도 걸을 수 있지만 스마트폰 없이는 잠시라도 살 수 없을 것 같은 현실이 되었습니다. 소비자가 이렇게 중요한 스마트폰을 구매할 때 가장 먼저 고려해야 할 사항이 무엇일까요? 첫째가 품질이고 그 품질이 똑같다면 그 다음 고려할 것은 가격일 것입니다. 시중에는 많은 스마트폰 브랜드가 있습니다. 그 중에서 품질 대비 가격, 즉 가성비가 가장 좋은 브랜드가 샤오미라고 저는 자신 있게 말씀드리고 싶습니다. 여러분께서도 동의하시나요? 지금은 브랜드의 이미지에 현혹되는 시대가 아니라 소비자가 직접 제품의 성능과 가격을 합리적으로 따져보고 구매를 결정하는 가성비의 시대라고 생각합니다. 지난 7월 저희 론칭 회사에서 소개해드린 홍미노트 5입니다. 처음 홍미노트 5를 보았을 때 정말 대단한 가성비의 제품이라고 생각했었습니다. 준 프리미엄급 스펙의 가격은 29만 9천 원이었습니다. 놀라운 가격이었습니다. 글로벌 유명한 스마트폰 평가 매체인 안드로이드 오서로트에서는 샤오미 폰의 모든 스마트폰의 모든 영역에서 홍미노트 5는 최고의 반열에 든다라고 주목할 만한 스마트폰이라고 말을 하였습니다. 감동을心 加购后到 최고의 제품을 가장 착한 가격에 공급해서 소비자의 마음을 감동시킨다는 전략, 그것이 샤오미의 브랜드 정신입니다. 그 정신의 초심을 되새기기 위해서 기획된 브랜드가 바로 포코폰은 전 세계적으로 대단한 관심과 주목을 받았습니다. 스냅드래곤 8 시리즈의 프리미엄 폰의 스펙과 성능을 갖추고도 그 가격은 동일한 프리미엄 폰의 3분의 1에 불과합니다. 과연 이것이 가능한 가격일 수 있느냐는 반문을 하게 합니다. 그렇다면 샤오미는 어떻게 이런 가성비를 만들어낼 수 있는 것일까요? 샤오미 가성비에 대해서 여러 가지 추측을 내놓곤 합니다. 그러나 가장 본질적인 팩트는 최고의 재료를 써서 제품을 만들지만 부대의 비용은 아끼고 마진은 줄인다는 데 있습니다. 솔직한 말씀으로 유통 생태계에 이익보다는 철저하게 소비자를 위한 브랜드, 그것이 바로 샤오미입니다. 저희 간단한 오프닝 멘트를 마치고 제품 소개가 있겠습니다. 제이, come to stage. 감사합니다.
안녕하세요. I practiced that for a long time, so hopefully it was okay. My name is Jay Mani, and I'm the head of product for Pocophone Global. And today, I'm really proud to be here in South Korea to present our first amazing product. But before we get into the product, I want to talk a little bit about Pocophone, why we started Pocophone and what it's about. So Pocophone is a sub-brand backed by Xiaomi, and as a small outfit within Xiaomi, we felt that we had a freedom to design products from scratch, products without any legacy history. Yet, we were able to enjoy the resources from Xiaomi, things like the supply chain, product, marketing, and sales. This means that you get a really different experience from what you usually expect from Xiaomi. So here's some of the stuff that we take advantage of from Xiaomi. Again, the supply chain, service, and most importantly for us, quality. If we were a new company making a new product by ourselves, it's really difficult to ensure high quality. But because Pocophone is backed by Xiaomi, we can start from the beginning with a high quality, amazing product. So this is the team behind Pocophone. There's around 8 of us right now. It's a very diverse team, as you can see. Some of us from India, I'm from the US. We have some from Singapore, Hong Kong, China, all over the place. But despite our cultural differences, we share one common thing, which is a passion for working on smartphones. And we all have many different, many years working experience on smartphones. And we felt like coming together, we could make something truly different. So that leads us to the story of why we started Pocophone. So many months ago, that group that you saw, we sat together, we started discussing the trends in the industry and trying to figure out how things were going to develop. So let's take a look at kind of the essentials, the basics of a smartphone. There are 5 or 6 things that are the basic things. There's the camera, the battery, the design, the display, and of course the most important thing, the brain of the processor, the smartphone. However, as competition has become more fierce, there are many phones that focus on many different features, new features, that are not relevant to every user. And so you have all these things, and they've led us to pretty amazing prices. I think in many different markets, we've hit kind of this benchmark price, 1 million won, 1,000 euros, $1,000. And so you have these phones which have all of these things that many people don't appreciate and they're not that excited about, and yet we've come up to these prices. And so we thought about why? Why is it like this? Can we do something different? And that's why we started Pocophone. We wanted to buck this trend. And so we focused on the innovations that we believe truly matter. We want to build products with smart product choices that many and all users enjoy and make a real difference in their lives. So for our first product, instead of trying to do everything, we focused on performance. And after many months working on this, we really believe it's the champion of performance. Performance is the most important thing on your phone. It affects everything that you do. And that's why it was the focus of our device. And so we call our first phone the master of speed. And we really believe this. So this is our first product, the Pocophone F1. So today I'm going to talk about 3 main things. The first is the performance, the second is the camera, and the third is the experience. And we think these are the 3 things that have the biggest impact on how you feel about your phone. So first, let me start with performance. As I said, we think this is the critical thing, and everybody knows that the most important factor when it comes to performance is the chipset. And so that's why with the Pocophone F1, we chose to use Qualcomm Snapdragon's top-of-the-line chip, which is the 845. And since we're focused on speed, this is the obvious choice. So Snapdragon 845 has the second generation 10nm FinFET technology. It offers high clock speeds, up to 2.8 gigahertz, while maintaining good thermal performance and, most importantly for us, battery life. Snapdragon 845 comes with the Adreno 630 GPU. It has a 30% improvement from the previous generation of Qualcomm's chip, the 835. And this is important because Qualcomm GPUs are already at the top of the industry. So Adreno 630 is really, really fast. It flies on any game, no matter how heavy. Qualcomm has also spent a lot of time improving the AI performance. 845 has 3 times the performance from the previous generation. This helps a lot, particularly in things like the camera, which we'll talk about later on. So this is kind of the peak Antutu score. This is a benchmark of smartphone performance. This is, among the best in the industry, almost 300,000. This is, really high score, and this makes it one of the fastest phones in the world. But these peak benchmark scores don't really tell the whole story. They're not what the average user experiences day to day. They're not running a benchmark when they're using their phone. So this is kind of the performance of a typical smartphone. They roughly stay the same, but when a smartphone runs at high performance, say if you're playing a game for half an hour, over a single session, as this phone gets hotter, the clock speed goes down, the phone becomes slower. We've all felt our phones get hot and then become really slow. And this is the problem. When your phone heats up, performance goes down. Hotter is slower. And so we wanted to solve this with the Pocophone F1. Because we were focused on speed, we already had the fastest processor. We wanted to avoid this problem. So we used something that we call liquid cool technology. This is a copper heatsink that's inside the phone with water vapor inside of it that disperses the heat generated by the chipset. This cools down your phone much more quickly, allowing it to run at higher speeds for much longer. So we actually have a graphic on how this works. So up here at the top left, this is the processor. So this is, processor's running, it generates heat. So this blue line here, this is the copper heatsink. So you can see it takes the heat from the processor and kind of spreads it out throughout the phone. And as the heat disperses, it cools down. So we can run that one more time, actually. There we go. So the result is a much lower CPU temperature, which means that it can run at higher speeds for longer. In our internal lab test, this liquid cool technology, it dissipates heat up to 300% faster. So this is actually really, really useful in practice. And that's why when we say speed, we mean real-world speed, not just the high benchmark score and the speed on paper, but actual speed. And with Snapdragon 845 and liquid cool, Pocophone F1 has set a new standard for performance. But you don't just have to take my word for it. We have a couple of quotes here from the media. This is from Engadget, Chris at Engadget. I can't read that, so I'll read this. He said, the F1 handled everything that I threw at it with gusto. PUBG in particular ran very well, no drop frames, and the performance in general for us has gotten really, really great reviews. So we definitely encourage everybody to try it out. We think it's really good. Okay, so now this is my favorite topic, which is battery life. And for years, this is something that I think has been sort of ignored. And recently, in mid-range phones, we've seen a lot of phones with big batteries. But with flagship devices, typically, they compromise on battery life. They try to make the phone thinner and have smaller batteries. So these are kind of some typical flagship phones. The iPhone, sort of a smaller battery. I think on average, most flagship smartphones are around 3,000 mAh. But because we didn't have any of these sort of legacy choices, because we didn't have a previous phone, we needed to make it the same size, we very early on felt like battery life is the most important thing that you have on your phone. You can have the fastest phone, but if it's out of battery, then it doesn't do anything. And so one of the first choices we made was to use a huge battery. So we have a 4,000 mAh battery. This is among the biggest batteries in flagship phones this year. And again, it seems like a common sense thing, but in the race to outdo one another, flagship phones have started to sort of ignore this. And this 4,000 mAh battery is around 30% bigger than the average. And this makes a huge difference, not just on paper, but in practice. So we have a couple of, this is data here. So you can get up to 8 hours of gaming, 146 hours of music, which is like 6 days, 30 hours of talk time. But I think most importantly for me is that it reduces anxiety. When you have a phone with a battery this big, you don't need to check the battery and worry about the next time you're going to be near the power outlet, or does my power bank have charge in it. It always gets you through the day. And once you have a phone like that, it's really hard to switch to anything else. Because we have such a big battery, we also have Qualcomm Snapdragon 3.0, and this comes with the 9-volt 2-amp charger in the box, so you can always fall back to fast charging if you need it. Coming to memory, so we have 6 gigabytes of DDR4X RAM. It's the fastest RAM in smartphones right now. And up to 64 gigabytes of UFS 2.1 storage, so this is super fast memory. And I want to point out here, memory is an area where being a part of Xiaomi really helps a lot, because we have access to Xiaomi's supply chain. We have access to Xiaomi's memory supply, which is a very important component, and it lets us ensure that we have UFS 2.1 for every one of our phones. And this makes a huge difference for us. The Pocophone F1 also supports an SD card, micro SD card, so it's expandable up to 256 gigabytes. This is another thing that is not very common in flagship phones, but it's very, very commonly used, particularly in places like India. Okay, so to summarize the performance, again, top of the line processor, but we have liquid cooled technology to make sure that it always runs at peak performance. The 4,000 mAh battery, which I think is just, once you use it, it's hard to use anything else. And then, fast ROM, fast RAM, and when you think about it, it is really everything that you can do to make a phone fast. And that's why we call it the master of speed. I think it shows what you can do when you're focused on something. You can start from scratch and build something truly new. So this comes from Android Authority. Pocophone F1 is a delight. It's fast and smooth with no lag or any jankiness. And across the board, the reviews of the Pocophone F1 so far have been really positive. Okay, so let's talk about design. This is another trend that we looked at when we were starting the Pocophone, and it seems like all flagship phones now should be made of glass. And we asked ourselves, is that what people really want? And the answer we found was no. Like when we talk to people, almost everybody with any phone, whether it's glass or not, has a case. Yesterday I was walking around in Hongdae, just walking around, like a lot of really talented singers and dancers there, and there are many phone stores which sell the phone cases, many of them, and everybody I saw has a case, and there are all these really cool cases. So if you put a case on a glass phone, the result is just a more fragile phone in a case, and it didn't really make sense. When we're starting from scratch, like, why do that? And so the Pocophone F1 It is a single piece of polycarbonate. It's super hard. It's a seamless shape that's comfortable to hold. And it's reinforced by an internal metal structure, so it really feels sturdy. We have some phones outside for you to check out afterwards. It feels really good in the hand. And we think it's pretty sensible. I think this quote here, it doesn't need a case and has a better chance of lasting longer than glass or metal phones. And that's kind of the design around the way people actually use their products, design that makes sense in our mind. So polycarbonate also has a pretty big functional impact. If you see, it's difficult to see on the slide here, but here the sides of the phone are actually curved. So when you have a big battery, a 4000 mAh battery, the phone becomes thicker, and if you have curved edges along the sides, it's much easier to hold, it feels thinner. And doing this with polycarbonate is significantly easier. You can do it with glass, but it's very difficult to manufacture, it can break, and so this is a really functional impact of using polycarbonate here. We have a USB Type-C port on the bottom, again, supports quick charge 3.0. And on the top, we have a 3.5, and then headphone jack. It's powered by a dedicated amp for really good audio. Coming to the front of the phone, it's a 6.18-inch LCD FHD panel. It has Corning Gorilla Glass, gets up to 500 nits and a contrast ratio of 101. But I want to dig into the components up here at the top. Okay, over here on the right side, we have kind of the standard components. There's this is the proximity sensor, there's the camera, earpiece. Over here on the left side of the phone, we've added infrared face unlock. So this is the light, and then this is the sensor that actually takes the photo. But again, it works really well in the dark, and I think the idea here is if you're using face unlock and you're using, if you don't have an IR camera, when you're in the dark, it doesn't work at all. Or you need to sort of blast the brightness on the display, which is probably the last thing you want to do when it's in the dark. And in our tests, in complete darkness, the average unlock time is 0.4 seconds. So it works, again, it works really well. So a little bit about the audio. So we have audio via the down-facing speaker. It has dual smart power amplifiers, so it can get really, really loud without much distortion. We do audio out of the earpiece in landscape. It's not true stereo, but it's like a stereo-like effect. And I mentioned earlier, audio out of the headphone jack has a dedicated amp as well, so it's really, really strong. So the Pocophone F1 comes in 2 colors. The one we've been showing you here is the graphite black. We also have another one, this is called the steel blue. It has a nice metallic sheen. Okay, so that's the design of the phone. Looks pretty cool, I think, but definitely check it out outside. Okay, so now let's talk about the camera. And this is an area where we really relied on Xiaomi's resources, both in hardware and software. And our goal for the camera was to make it easy to get a good photo on the first try. So first, coming to the hardware, the main sensor is a Sony 12 megapixel IMX363. This is the same sensor that we're using in all of our flagship phones this year. From the Mi 8, we had the Mi Mix 2S, we just launched the Mi Mix 3 last week in China. This is the same sensor that we're using in all of those phones. And again, because we have access to Xiaomi's supply chain, we get access to this really high quality component. And the secondary sensor from Samsung is a sensor to capture depth information to give you the portrait mode shots. So a little bit more on the primary camera. It has really big 1.4 micron pixels. These are really large pixel sizes. These are, the 363 is really similar to the IMX362, which is what Google used in the Pixel 2 last year. And with more light per pixel, you get much better low light photography because each pixel lets in more light. The main camera also has something called dual pixel autofocus. This means that the camera has up to 12 million focusing points, which is almost 30 times more than the number of focusing points in PDF, which is traditional focusing. That means the algorithm has a lot more data to be able to focus instantly. So you get super fast autofocus. And the Pocophone F1 went through a vigorous cycle of testing in Xiaomi's camera labs. Again, as a new company, it'd be difficult to be able to set up labs like this, but because we were part of Xiaomi, we were able to use Xiaomi's camera team, Xiaomi's equipment, and run it through all of these tests, particularly in low light testing. So we have a couple of samples here. Again, this is an area where being able to focus quickly matters. Obviously, this is kind of an action shot, and you can see, you know, he's in clear focus. Again, another action shot, and there's, you know, kind of all these like color blasts going on, but still able to get focus despite all of the noise in the image. But camera performance now is largely driven by software, and because we're using the same sensor that Xiaomi used in the Mi 8 and the Mix 2S, we were able to use the same software baseline that Xiaomi used. So when we started developing this phone, we had a huge head start. And software tuning is critical when it comes to cameras. So this is a huge advantage for us. We put the foreground object into the shadow. Pretty cool. So when you're using the phone, you can see the AI icon up there at the top, and then when the algorithm recognizes the scene, the icon changes to match. So here it's recognized that we're taking a picture of food, and then we try to adjust the settings to give you the best result. We have over 206 scenes across 25 categories. We're adding more and more over time. So you can see here some of the categories that we have. So I have a couple of other examples. This was from France, I believe. And if you look at the image, obviously the main object here is the building in the foreground. But the sky is kind of taking over the photo, and the building is kind of in the shadow. You can't really see a lot of the details. When we kick in AI, you can see the same photo just becomes a lot more attractive. It looks like it's taken at a completely different time of day, but actually, if you look at these guys here, they're right over there. So these images were taken like just after each other. This is not, you know, a couple hours later. This is the same lighting conditions, and you just get a much better photo. Okay, so a couple of more camera samples. This is kind of a low light photo, really close up, but still really good details on the front here, good colors. This is another photo where it's tough to get details in multiple parts of the image. If you look at the leaves here and down there, you can really see a lot of crisp detail, and the snail is also in focus. Again, really close up shot, done really well. Okay, so let's talk about the front camera now. So the front camera is a 20 megapixel front camera, and this is the exact same front camera module that we're using in the Mi 8. So again, we were able to start software tuning way ahead because we already had the Mi 8 software to work from. So for low light photos in the front, we do something called pixel binning, 4-in-1 pixel binning, to give you effectively a super pixel. So this gives you 1.8 micron pixels, which again is much better in low light, gives you much better shots in low light. So I think we have one sample here from the front camera. Again, really high resolution because it's 20 megapixels. And then we have good algorithms to do the blurring effect on the background. So sharp lines blurred in the background. Okay, this is a quote from GSM Arena. Image quality is excellent in broad daylight. Photos are sharp and detailed, and noise is almost non-existent. So, you know, I think camera is subjective. Definitely try it out, but we think it's pretty good. So this comes from a famous YouTuber in the UK. His name is Mr. Who's the Boss. Generally, I prefer the output of the Pocophone. In terms of raw bang for your buck, I'd say the Pocophone takes it. All right, so that's camera. Let's talk about experience. And Pocophone is designed. Our sort of core user are kind of like the smartphone enthusiasts and people who value performance above everything else. And we wanted to work on a new software experience for them. So it's called MIUI for Poco. And it's a brand new interface that promises fast and fluid experience. And we focused on three things. The first is a new Poco launcher, a turbocharged engine, and the third thing is fast updates. So first let me talk about the Poco launcher. This is, if you've used any of our phones before, this will be the most significant software difference, the Poco launcher. So there's two big features here. The first one is the app drawer, which is the list of apps, alphabetical list of apps. And the second is really personalized customizations. And the app drawer is probably the thing that people talk about most when they're comparing MIUI to stock Android. So let's start with that. So this actually is what stock Android looks like. So this is the app drawer from the Google Pixel. And you can see the search bar up there at the top if you want to search for apps. So with the Poco launcher, we have a very similar design, but we've moved the search bar to the bottom. And with the big phone, it's just easier to reach with your thumb because you have it down here. We also have added, so up there, the frequently used apps, but we've also added categories. So we automatically separate apps into categories. You can see here. Yeah, so it's make it easier to find apps. When you install a new app, it gets put into the category automatically, so you don't have to do any work there. Okay, so we have another cool feature, which is being able to search by the color of icons. So when you turn that on, you get the color search here. And so if we tap green, we'll show all of the apps which are green, which have green icons. It seems like a cool feature, but actually it is really useful in practice. If you're trying to find an app, let's say like you're trying to find the security app here, and you open your app drawer, it'll be all the way at the bottom because it's, the alphabet is at the bottom. But with this, you open it, you press green, and you press security, it's just 3 taps. It's actually a lot faster in many cases. So privacy is also something that sort of enthusiasts value. So we have a hidden app feature where you swipe twice in the app drawer, and then you can put apps behind another unlock, and these apps won't show anywhere else on your phone. So Android users love to customize their phones. MIUI for Poco also has support for custom icon packs, so you can install these from the Play Store. So you can just change the look and feel of the launcher. Cool. So it's pretty cool. And actually, one of the things that people, when we launched the phone, everyone said, I want this on other phones. So I think a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, we just launched this on the Play Store, so you can actually install the Poco launcher on any phone. So that's the Poco launcher. The second thing is the turbocharged engine. This has many system optimizations, but I'm just going to talk about 3 of them quickly. The first is app startup times, the foreground app experience, and then faster scrolling and swiping. So on app startup times, we have something we call the VIP launch booster, and it kind of works like this. So this is a typical phone on the right, and this is kind of the new optimization on the left. And this is what happens when you start an app. The system just kind of takes resources as it can. And with MIUI for Poco, we have dedicated resources that are waiting to start an app. And so when you click on an app, it just can go directly, can open as quickly as possible. And in practice, we have worked on the most popular applications to optimize startup time. And the result is pretty good. I mean, it's almost 30% faster with this optimization. We also, the foreground app experience, what we do is we dedicate more resources to what you can see, which sounds logical. And if you look at what happens on a normal Android phone, there's many different processes. You can have something downloading in the background. You can have all kinds of apps running. But this blue square here is the app that you're actually using. And so, if you're playing a game, you probably don't really want resources being dedicated to anything else on the phone. So with MIUI for Poco, we dedicate as many resources as possible to the foreground app. And this means it's called dynamic allocation. And that's because that's what the user cares about the most. Okay, so now let's talk about the swiping experience. So we have two main things here. This one is touch sensitivity. So this on the left is before our improvements. And it's basically how fast the system can register a touch. So when you touch your phone, how quickly the system knows that you've touched it. And we've actually made a 20% improvement here. It's difficult to see visually, we've slowed it down a lot, but this is something that, if you show someone two phones, it makes a big difference to the way they feel about it. We've also worked on the animations, so we've made them 22% faster and smoother. You can see the difference again here on the left and the right. So overall, this makes the swiping performance 21% faster than before. There's many more, over 20 different optimizations that we don't have time to go through. Things like cache management, background acceleration, Wi-Fi speed boost. But this is what makes the phone feel really fast. Okay, so on to updates. And this is something that is really important. It's something that people told us they really wanted us to spend time on. So we're talking about updates, both in security updates as well as the underlying Android OS. So for security updates, we plan to update it at least once every quarter. In practice, we're probably going to do much better than that, but we're planning to do at least once a quarter. For Android P, right now the phone is on Android Oreo 8.1. Android P will be out by the end of this year. We're already working on that right now. And then the MIUI 10 update will come out next week. So again, really big focus on fast updates. So that's MIUI for Poco. A new Poco launcher, giving you the app drawer, but as well, cool customizations, the turbocharged engine for super fast performance, and the focus on fast updates, both security and OS updates. All right, so that's MIUI for Poco. So let's do a quick summary here. So again, there's a lot of stuff up here, but amazing performance because of Snapdragon 845, but consistent performance, sustained performance because of the liquid cooling technology. A huge battery, which I think should be in every phone. Support for a micro SD card, and a great camera because we're able to focus, we're able to take advantage of Xiaomi's resources both in hardware as well as in their tuning and testing expertise. And an all-new MIUI for Poco experience, making it feel super fast and giving you a lot of control over the phone. Because of this focus, this I think comes from GSM Arena, kind of redefining the word flagship. And that's what we talked about in the beginning, which is do all of these things, make sense. If you buy a flagship phone, should it be glass? Should it have a small battery? We didn't think so. And we felt that focusing on the things that really matter, focusing on the things that we felt are important, being able to start from scratch with a new brand made it easier for us to deliver something that really made people think, hey, this is different. Okay, let's talk about the price. But first we'll do a quick comparison here. So these are some of the other flagship phones. Again, kind of smaller batteries in general here, and kind of these eye-popping prices in some cases. Yeah. So we have 664, and the price is thank you. Okay. So every phone also comes with a free soft case that's in the box. Again, we know most people put cases on their phones. We included one here in the box. In terms of where you can get it, you can get it from 3 telco partners. As you see here, SKT, Great Telecom, Plus. It'll also be available from these retailers: ETM Mobile, CJ Hello, 11 Streets, G Market, iMart. And pre-orders will begin on the 12th of November across our partners. Okay. So here's, again, another summary. Top of the line performance, great battery life, good camera, and a really amazing, honest price. So that's all we had to share today. I'd like to invite, I was going to say Shanzhan, Mr. Lan Chan, our Senior Vice President of Xiaomi, who's here to help us with the launch, as well as Jenny from Gmobi, so we can take a photo op. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So I think after this, we'll have about, Jenny and I will be answering questions for about 10 minutes. If you'd like, there's lunch outside as well as an experience zone where you can check out the phone. So thank you very much. Thank you for your time.